Hey, my name's Tom. If you haven't met me before, I like planes. It's kind of my deal. So anyway, that was what I was known for. Like I was known for that was going to be where I was going to end up. But then...
Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch Podcast. It's great to have you along with us, and we've got Hudson along with us as usual, whether you're behind the camera or in front of the camera. And Tom's back for his second episode. And we left last episode on a bit of a cliffhanger.
On the bombshell.
On the bombshell. Although the bombshell's coming.
Oh, the bombshell is coming.
Bombs away. And
the alarms are off.
Have you ever seen those videos where they're like from World War II and they're like filming all the guys? Yeah, the boys. Like the voice is like that. And it's always got this like...
I've seen that.
Like violin music over the top and like, say hello to us, boys. And they're like, you know how it's fast? And they're like, hi.
That's
and then,
really good.
But then they always go like, here they are getting ready to go off and bomb Germany. And then they're like, give Hitler an early Christmas present from us, boys. And they're like, I always think that's really
That's really funny. They all sprinted like, I don't know, like the opposite of slow motion, like fast motion.
Yeah,
like,
it must be like the frame rate they've shot it at or something.
And they've got like the fanfare.
Yeah.
In the
Go
background.
get Hitler for us, boys. We're counting on you. I love the voice.
Really good.
It's the same voice on everything though, isn't it? It's not like the same guy. Go.
Yes. Here are the krauts. They're off to... No, sorry. Here are our boys. They're off to hunt some krauts today.
Yeah, look out for Jerry. Jerry's such a weird name for the Germans. Right. So we left it on the bombshell, or upcoming bombshell, that you were planning to become a pilot.
I was.
What happened after year 12 though?
After year 12, well, it was actually like just after the HSC finished where I went in for like a fairly routine eye exam just to like check up, make sure.
Oh.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, I was one stage off the officer selection board, which is kind of like the final step in the application.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially that's where they assess your qualities to be like your leadership qualities and your motivation and how much you know about defense. And look, I think I would have been okay in like, I think I was fairly confident going into that. So there was just kind of the equivalent of just before you do that, here's one final eye exam just to make sure. And I went in, thought, you know, it was all fine. The optometrist said, or ophthalmologist said, yeah, you'll pass with flying colours, you'll be fine. But then I was in Japan when I got an email saying, sorry, you're unfit for service.
No.
You've got, you don't meet aviation visual requirement 1, which is what you need for being a pilot. So I was like, whoa, that's news. Didn't really think about it through Japan. Knew, okay, they've probably just made a mistake. Like, they might have switched up my, just switched up my file or something. Like I knew I had 20/20 vision. I was told that I have better than 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just thought, okay, I'm just going to have to submit a appeal letter like I've done already twice. It's just part of the process. And I'll just, you know, it'll all be good. I was still pretty motivated. I was in good spirits. It'll be fine. But then I called them up after a little while and just said, look, what's happening? And they said, look, it's in regards to your accommodation. And I was like, okay, what's that?
Yeah.
So accommodation is essentially a test where they have a slider with like a card of letters on it and they're moving it towards you and you've got to essentially tell them when it gets blurry.
Yep.
How far away from your eyes it gets blurry. So that was the one thing which I needed a better result on. I think I had 13 centimeters. You need about 8 or 9, I think, roughly. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll resit that. That'll be fine. So I went to a optometrist who said, yeah, it can be trained. You'll be fine. So like, sick. So I did some eyesight training just at home, which is just like muscle training, but for your eyes. Went back in after a few months to resit the exam. Thought I did better. It was only 1 centimeter better. I was like, okay, that's probably not ideal. I could just seep through. I still had a fair bit of hope, but I was like, oh, this is not what I was hoping for. So and then that kind of started this process of waiting. I was waiting for 27 weeks, just because it's not a priority role. So they're prioritizing other positions over mine because lots of people want to be a pilot. And I was just waiting and waiting. I was calling them up saying, how far along? And then at like the 15th week, they were like, oh, it only just got through to the person it's supposed to, who can clear off. And I was like, what's it been doing?
It's been half a year.
It's been in transit. Have you heard of email?
Is it coming via carrier pigeon?
Yeah, exactly. It's being airdropped at the Aviation Medical Center. Like, are you serious?
It's a large file.
So that was the thing. I was like, wow, that's insane, dude. Like, okay. So then I was waiting again for like another couple months from memory. And then I finally got the message back saying, look, you haven't got through. And I was like, oh man, that's brutal. Like, that was what I wanted to do for like most of my childhood, like for 2/3 of my of my waking life at this stage. I was like, wow. And I can't do that through literally no fault of my own. Like, I would have got through just fine, I think I can say, but like, that really tripped me up. And that was a really tough month. So this was the tough month we talked about in the last episode, where, essentially in the space of about a month, I got that final rejection from the Air Force, that final no, which was like, okay. And then I got sick with glandular fever. No. So then I was bedridden for 3 weeks and lost like 5 kilos because I just didn't have an appetite and just couldn't eat. And then I broke up with my girlfriend of 5 months at that stage as well. So in that sense, like that month was like, oh my gosh, I was pretty low. Like that was kind of my second really low point since that. So that was my first really low point since year 9, where, mum would kind of come home and I'd just be kind of like lying on the couch, in my jammies, just kind of like staring off into space, in the dark. And she'd be like, are you all right? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty broken at the moment. And there were times when, like, I probably should have spoken up more, funnily enough. For instance, like serving at youth group. Like, there was one time where I just came to youth group. It might have been slightly before that, actually, when like I was really struggling with the waiting. When I just came to youth group, I was just in a really bad way and just kind of went there, just kind of like went straight up to the bathroom, kind of just like nearly threw up, and then cried for a little bit, and then was like, I'm too sick. I think I need to go home. So that was, you probably remember.
Yes, I remember that
particular time. Yes. So that was that time. That was when I was just really, like, the waiting was just really getting to me. Like, I thought I had a fair bit of resilience built up from year 12 and from year 9 in particular, but that was just kind of absolutely shot to bits. So that was really, really tough for a little while. I guess you could say, in a sense, I got mini Jobbed by having all 3 of those things happen in the space of a few weeks. But once again, I found that God had placed in my life a spiritual toolkit, which ended up being super, super helpful at the time. I read through Job properly for the first time, earlier that year. Not just, the first 2 chapters and the last 5 chapters or so, which is what, there's a whole bunch of talking in the middle, and then God speaks to Job.
We get a Job, it's hard.
Yep. And Leviathan's there, and, it's cool. Get a Job, it's hard. Exactly. So that was the first time I read through all of Job, and I also, what else did I read through? I read through a lot of the Psalms as well. There's a really awesome, my favorite Bible verse at the moment, Psalm 139, verse 23-24. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And just having that toolkit of scripture at my disposal, it was honestly like, it was, I guess, in a sense, comparable to Jesus in the wilderness, where I felt like I was being hurled things And when you have scripture that can repel those things, or at least dampen the blow, it makes it a lot more bearable. And yeah, coming out of that phase, once again, I think that God uses everything, and it's clear that God has other plans for me outside of the Air Force. Maybe in a defense context, maybe not. I'm still not sure. He's, I could have just lied about that accommodation test. I could have just waited till it was just blurry as anything. That wouldn't have showed much integrity. I think, God, in that time, it was really hard, of course, but God had a broader purpose for me in his scheme of things, which I couldn't see at the time, but which I'm slowly starting to realize now that we're getting on the back half of 2024, where it's been nothing like I thought this year was going to be. I thought that I'd be flying PC-21s or studying at ADFA. But instead I'm kind of just digging holes as a labourer and earning a bit of money, guns for hire type thing. But I found that throughout this year, like we were talking about, I have this new sense of personal faith. And when we had that prayer night at late night a little while ago, when it got to me, I just said, look, I've got nothing but praise at the moment. Because you know what, that was my thorn for a little while, but out of that, I've come to realize more so than before that God's grace is sufficient, and that, I don't have that flashy Air Force badge on my shoulder, but I do have a community of like-minded Christians, which is really, really awesome. And once again, what do we have if we don't have community and relationships with people?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
I mean, that would have been really tough to, that's something you've built up in your life for a very long time. Do you think that one of the reasons it was hard was because, you found that hard work is really, there's a lot of value in it, and you found that helped you a lot of things, but in this instance, hard work wasn't going to get you the actual thing that you wanted. It just came down to your,
that's
sadly
actually,
your eyes. You know what I mean? You can't work too hard on your eyes.
Out of my control, exactly. Yeah. And I think also, I'd worked so hard. I used to just be that would be my motivation while I was studying for an extensive number of hours. I'd do the Pomodoro thing, and after a couple hours, I'd sit back and watch an old cockpit video or something, someone flying. It would be, or I'd watch another RAF video just to learn a little bit more about the organization, and that would be my motivation just to keep going. And then I didn't have that motivation anymore. And then it was oh man, I put in all those hours with this particular goal, and now that goal is not there anymore. And it's I felt a little bit like those old Wile E. Coyote clips where he's walking along on clouds, and then the clouds dissipate and it's just air, and he's looking around and then he kind of gives a bit of a sigh and then just falls. That's a bit how it felt. Where it was my whole, I think what I was potentially making my rock was now taken away. And that's where I found a lot of self-worth, perhaps too much self-worth in retrospect. But then again, it was a passion.
Still is.
Yeah.
The passion's still there. It's just,
you
couldn't get. Yeah. So what did you want to be? It was fighter pilot? That's what you were aiming for?
Yeah. I mean, everyone aims for the fast jets. They're the holy grail of flying.
Yeah.
I guess everything about it, the noise, going Mach 2, 2,000 Ks an hour in a tin can, it's pretty desirable for a pretty niche personality type like myself. So, and also I think from a broader organizational standpoint, sure, there's all the cool stuff that comes with flying, but also the ADF teaches you how to be a leader. And I've always, and that's always going to be a core value of mine in whatever sphere I go into.
I think that's
going to
be
leading people and in some sense. So that was also really attractive as well, and still is to an extent.
What's the kind of roles that you're looking at in defence if you obviously can't be a fighter pilot? What are you looking at now?
So as of today, which is the 12th of October, I believe, I'm currently weighing in between a defence role in the Army as an officer in the Army and doing physiotherapy in a civilian role. So I'm very much looking into both of those at the moment, and that's kind of part of the self-propelled study, which I was talking about before. So just kind of putting my head down in the books for a couple hours and just learning everything I can about both particular role, just to work out what direction I want to take my life in over the next little while. So from an ADF standpoint, to answer your question, essentially being in the Army, a good way which it was described to me is whereas in the Air Force they man the equipment, the Army equips the man. It's more focused on you. You're not just the operator of a machine. You're much more. It's much more. Funnily enough, relational and much more diverse in who you could be.
It's interesting you say that though. The relational thing is that. Do you think there may be, like, you seem very capable of going into your own zone, studying. We talked about the thing that happened in year 9.
Yeah,
that maybe God is saying, like, you can't do this on your own. Like, you got to do. Like, he's giving you gifts. Like, it's obvious he's giving you some gifts and talents and stuff, like leadership.
Like everyone has.
Yeah, like everyone, right? In different ways. But maybe what he's really trying to show you is don't do this on your own. Like, do it in a more relational way. Like, that's just an observation. But do you think that might be the case?
I think so. I think I wasn't prepared enough spiritually if I went into the Air Force this year. I think it's one thing to be a Christian in any work environment. I think it's another thing to be a Christian where in an arm or an ADF space where you're posted potentially away from family for an extended period of time, and you've got to be fairly mature as a Christian to be able to fly the flag and be an ambassador and continue to embody those Christian values, even when, I guess everyone else might be doing something different. So, look, the Army's slightly different in terms of where they post you. Like, people, there's the running joke of the chair force. You get good meals, you get a lovely bed, and you get posted in like an actual house on an airfield somewhere. Whereas in the Army, you're probably in a tent. So different environment, which comes with its own challenges. And it's perhaps, very valuable that I've had a year of life experience, both if I go into the Army, but also if I go into some kind of degree. I've got a lot more self-awareness, and I feel like I'm much more able to discern what my strengths are, but also what my weaknesses are. And that's really important, both from a leadership perspective, but also like a living through life perspective, to know what you don't do well, to know what you need to do better, and what you do well, pretty much.
I think you're doing that though. I think the thing that you could do is just like sit on your laurels and just go, I'm not a pilot, so that's it. Like, there's nothing else for me. And I think something that I've had to learn from when I was younger was that it's not just worth thinking about things. And this is something I really try and pass on to my son, because he's similar to me in many ways, is that you have to do it. Like, you have to do it to either find out if it's the right thing or the wrong thing, or not the right thing or the wrong, more like you have to do it to figure out, is this what I should be doing? Like, we're experiential learners. We can't just sit there and think about it for forever. And like, even you think with the Air Force thing, like, it was your goal and you did it to the best of your capabilities. And then God said, that's not the case. But what he's teaching is on the flip side is like, what are you actually going to be doing? Like, what's he got in store for you, kind of thing? Yeah,
it's funny. I think there's always been, funnily enough, ministry on my mind. Like, I think that's always been something which I know I want to do in some regard down the line. It's just in between that, where I am now. Like, I think it's really important to be in a workspace and to get that real life experience.
I agree.
I think the army would give you that real life experience in double. I think physio would also give you that real life experience in different ways.
We're doing youth ministry now too, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's awesome. Like, youth ministry has been one of the best things that I've done this year. I can very confidently say that. Like, being able to invest in that group of boys and then walking up to church and they're all like, Tom. It's like, this is cool. This is awesome.
Did you have that when you grew up? Did you have like strong youth leaders and stuff?
Yeah, I did. I came to Fuse for a little while with Cooper de Reeve, and then I went to youth group as well here. Just trying to think what happened after that. I think I might have had a year where I didn't go to youth group, a couple years, and then throughout year 11 and 12, I went to Park Road Anglican Youth Group in where is it? In South Hurstville, Allawa.
Okay.
Just because I had a lot of school friends who went there.
I was going to say, it's friends from school.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think, in particular, there were a couple youth leaders and mentors. Actually, one of them, not just youth leaders, but there was also a year 7 teacher I had who mentored me through year 8 and 9, through year 7 and 8. Yeah. Who was really instrumental in kind of shaping me into the person I am today. So yeah, I also think the guy who I had through year 11 and 12, a bloke called Ethan Moxham, he was also really, really integral in shaping my character, which was, it's awesome. I think everyone needs a mentor at this stage in life. I don't currently have a mentor, but it's definitely on my radar to acquire one. That sounded a lot, in my head that sounded like acquiring a Pokemon, not like acquiring like a Pokemon, but like to, to get a mentor. Yeah. I don't know.
Also, I think also you don't have to just have an individual mentor. Like, I think the one thing that I've been, like, being in survival community for a long time, 20 plus years now, is that you have multiple mentors. And you've got to put them in your life at different times. He's moving the chess pieces.
That's a good way of looking at it, I'd say.
I think that's a really cool way to look at it. I think we're probably running out of a little bit of time, but you guys are leading youth ministry together. Tell me more about that, doing it together, because I think it'd be really cool to hear your perspectives. And also, I haven't allowed you to speak much today on this episode. Sorry, Hudson. So you start.
I think having Tom there is amazing. First of all, in our group chat, he's named like celebrity.
The nickname,
like the nickname is celebrity or something.
Celebrity
because
worm.
he most of the boys that we have. So wait, they're your age, right?
Yeah, they would be.
So most of them went to or still go to Sunday mornings, which is where Tom was going for a bit. So they all already had that relationship with him.
Yeah, cool.
So they are little fangirls for Tom.
That's a funny story actually. Where I used to like be on Sunday morning as the cheerleader with Tim Beilhartz.
Yeah.
And I remember he used to walk in and Tim would walk in and they'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd walk in and be, Tom! I felt so bad for Tim. I was getting high fives. It was like that scene from Batman vs Superman where like Superman descends amongst the people and they're all like reaching out and trying to just touch him, like get a grasp of his cloak. And yeah, that was kind of what it felt like for a little bit, being in chill with these kids who very much looked up to me. And I loved being that guy for them and being able to just be a pal.
Which one's Superman? Which one's Batman in your leadership team?
Well,
that's a good question.
You've already taken Superman, I reckon. So
that's high praise.
I can see him with the big S.
That's see me with a mask.
Yeah,
that's right.
You're Batman. I reckon you're Batman because you like to hide things sometimes.
Just without the intellectual element.
Yeah. We'll break that down psychologically for you later. And intellectually.
Thank you. I need both bits as well. You got to give me the science and then you got to explain the science in a simple way.
That's it. That's perfect. Feynman technique.
Breaking Dad would be like, I'm 5 years old.
Yeah. Let's go back to youth leading.
I think having another boy youth leader, because right now it's been me, and so I've also had another person, Luca, join
Luca's
the
legend.
team,
Yeah.
which has been amazing, having a fresh set of people for the boys to really connect with, and just to put myself in a, like, not in a, oh, I'm better, but this has been something I've been doing for like the past, whenever I finished youth. So being able to like support and just give advice, and also just see how they do things and learn from them has been awesome.
Yeah. Because we feed off each other, I'd say.
Oh, 100%. And we're friends from soccer randomly. We just somehow ended up in the same soccer team, and
okay.
Grace Point Possums.
Always
up there at Possum Park.
Possum Park.
We should do like one of those old, like, you know, the 1940s war films for the possums. Here come the possums.
And here come the possums, ready to ravage the berries.
Ready to get another win.
That's right.
Take that, lily pilly berries.
That's it.
Something that I've observed is that, and this is the thing that we've learned over many years of ministry too, is that when you serve together in ministry, you become really good friends. And it's kind of, and you tell me what you think about this, but it's kind of like, because you're doing that, there's this external spiritual purpose that God gives you, because you're not only leading the crew, that like a kind of core principle that we have is like, we'll hang out as leaders, and if God brings any kids along, then all the better. And that's what I learned, because I grew up in that. Like, so Jai and Chris Stevens and Jimmy is another guy, he's still at Gymea Anglican. They invested huge amounts of time in me, and I'm really good friends with them all. But that you could tell, like, the reason that happened, I reckon, is because you tell they were really good friends with each other, and because they were serving together. So it's this thing of like, it's really cool to grow up. And then so I did the same thing with Pete Waddington and Jared Spring and Michael Greaves for a certain amount of time. Like, we did all that. We did that together as well, from year 7 to year 12. And to see you guys doing it's really cool. But tell me, do you feel like you're more committed to each other, and is that growing you as Christians just by doing that, like serving in youth ministry?
Well, okay. I think 100%. Just having someone my age and gender we've had some very, very good conversations, and then switch to like the most random thing ever, and then switch back to like
But that's a
very
good
deep
friendship.
Yeah.
That's a good friendship. Sign of a good
Just
friendship.
being able to have the both, like, it's been very helpful being able to have both of the fun times and then the hard times. And then just the advice. I would say Tom's very, very good. He's very good at talking in a way that I can understand, and then expressing advice into that. That's not like,
sick. Yeah.
like, oh, I'm better than you, like this, but just like genuine, like, this is like, from what you've told, like, this is what I think. I think that's been amazing, and him being at youth has allowed me to have that a lot more. Which is good.
I appreciate it, man. I'd say the same about you, in the sense that like having a like-minded, similarly aged male is super, super awesome. It's very funny. I think guys, like, I've had deeper conversations with guys in particular than I have with any female, at least at this age, I think. And that's a testament to, I think a lot of us are like we were talking about with friendship, we're going through the same thing. Like, it's very much a, what, you two? I thought I was the only one case. And I think a lot of Christian guys, non-Christian guys as well, are really struggling with identity and purpose.
But also how to talk about it.
And also how to talk about it. So when you break that ice and you overcome that third point, how to talk about it, I find like you can find common ground with lots of similarly aged guys at this stage. And not just shallow common ground, like, oh, you also go for the Cronulla Sharks? Like, up Cronulla. We lost the finals again. But it's actually like really deep and meaningful and quite a profound common ground that I don't like. I think most people have it, but most, like you say, most people can't initially break the ice to talk about it. So being able to talk about it with anyone is really, really sick.
But that's the thing, like serving God in ministry together, like helps that so much.
Oh, yeah.
It's a vessel.
Yeah.
Because when you're serving together, like, I 100% agree.
Yeah. No, it's been really cool. It's really cool to see you guys grow in that this year as well. Last question, Tom. We've talked about a lot of your life. Looking back on it, and you're only 19? 18?
19. I was only 19. I was blasting that all morning on the 28th of July. I was only 19.
Oh, you guys are great. Write that in a poem.
Frankie kicked the landmine. Hey man, go and kick the moon. Yeah.
What is that song? What song are you singing?
I was only 19.
Yeah.
It's a staple of Aussie music. You should listen.
What song is it though?
It's I was only 19. It's written by this guy about going off to Vietnam.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is a Chisel song.
No, not Chisel. Some random guy. It's a bit of a one-hit wonder, I think. That would probably get me stoned in some older circles.
Anyway, I think I know who you mean, but I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with remembering names right now. Okay, so we've looked over your life. What would you want to tell your younger Christian self that you know now?
I'd tell my younger self lots of things. I think about this a lot. I would probably tell him, I'd probably remind him of the HOPE acronym. Depends on what stage, but let's say year 9. Hold on, pain ends. Learn how to reach out to people. You're in for some really awesome things. Like you're in for some really, really awesome experiences, which I don't think many 18-year-old guys or 19-year-old guys get to experience. You're also in for some pretty tough times, but God's got you, dude. Probably hit the gym with him or something and spot him on the bench or something after that. And
get in the spiritual gym.
I'd love to go to the gym with my younger self. Show him the animal that he's become. No.
Wow. That's the title of the podcast. The animal I've become. Write that down.
Perfect.
That's cool though. I think you're right. I think we've reflected on the podcast a number of times, and Chip Lunch is like, you look like 5 years ago. That's what God was doing. I wish I'd listened to him. You know what I mean? But you can't. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you God's putting you through experiences like, when James saying you're being refined by fire, and he has to give you that perspective later on. It's like, because he's testing you. He's testing your resilience. He's testing your faith when you're going through tough stuff. And you have gone through some hard times. But I from what I see from you, and we've had a couple of conversations, but not lots. What I see from you, Tom, is that you have taken that and done what it kind of says in James and produced more fruit rather than less, if that makes sense. Like be testing your faith. Your faith is grown. Especially you talked about when you finish school and not being able to get into the Air Force the way you wanted to is a real test of your faith. Like that sounds like probably the biggest. Like we talked about the year 9 thing, but the real thing is I got out of this and I'm still going to be able to achieve the goal that I want. And then God says, no, this isn't the right, this isn't the right time or the right thing for you now. To come through that and then go, well, I'm also going to be, you said we haven't really talked about it. You do labouring at the moment, but then you also you're doing youth leading. Yeah. And then you find other avenues to make that work, to make it it's kind of finding something to work towards.
Yeah. And I'm on top of labouring, I should also add, I'm also doing NDIS work.
Well,
so also caring for an older guy a couple times a week who's got a mental disability, and that's really fulfilling. And I'm also tutoring a girl every week, and that's also been really, really sick, although that's going to end in about a week.
Oh, okay. But that's cool. I think that's what you need to be doing. I think as guys, we need stuff to be doing. We need to be doing stuff. That's what I mean.
100%.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have a D&M with someone, this is such a valid point. You know how Brad Pitt's eating in every single Brad Pitt movie?
Yeah, especially in Oceans, the Ocean's 11.
Especially Oceans. Yeah. I have taken that on and very conscientiously derive that from Brad Pitt's mannerism. If I'm gonna have a dinner with someone, I'll say, let's go for a Macca's drive-through first. I need to eat something first.
No, that
like we
makes
need to
sense.
be doing things.
Well, exactly. And men
At that
especially are
level,
shoulder to shoulder. Like they
Yeah.
have conversations when they're doing stuff together. So you could just be driving or whatever. But that makes total sense because, again, that's why we at church we do meals.
Yeah.
We have that extended time together just to hang out and talk. That's really, but there's something really cool about that. Anyway, to wrap all this up, I'm going to leave the final words for Hudson. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
It's been great.
Thanks for coming on. You spoke really well, and I can't wait to see how much more you grow
Me
in
too.
your faith and everything else that you're doing. So thank you for coming on, Hudson.
I want to double the thank you for coming on, but also just for youth leading and being a great mentor and friend.
I feel like you guys are really grown as friends.
Yeah,
this year.
100%.
100%.
It's from not seeing you much in year 12 and year 11, apart from soccer and a bit. That's only like half a year. And then to like seeing you like immensely more this year has been amazing.
Oh yeah, it's been absolutely sick. And I think part of the reason through year 11 and 12 was like I had that group of friends at school that I had invested in, and that was kind of where I spent my time. But when that all ended, it was like, oh, they're all gone now. And like that was when I was really forced to invest in my church community. And look at the dividends that's paid, even in the space of like a year of coming to Saturdays. Not even,
Yeah, sick. But it's so funny that your relationship kind of parallels like, so Michael and I finished school, right? Michael Greaves and I were in the same year. He was school captain of our year.
Oh wow.
And we
know
didn't lead for 2 years. I can't remember exactly the reasons why. I think we were just in a bit like, we didn't lead youth together, but we're like, yeah, we're going to lead youth together. And then we went to the first leaders blah. That's what we used to call it, blah, because blah, blah, we always talk, right? And then we got told, oh, you're leading with Jared and Pete. And we're like, who the hell are they? Like, we didn't know who they were. So it's kind of similar. Like, you knew of Tom, but like you didn't. But then I've got amazing friendships with Jared and Pete because I had no idea who they were. But now, like through leading, I led with them for five years. And I've got great relationships with them because of that. So you guys are paralleling that as well. But let's wrap up the chips.
Sick.
Newspaper or whatever. It used to be a newspaper, not anymore. Thank you very much, Tom. It's been awesome to have you along with us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks for having me on.
It's been an absolutely fantastic plane ride. What a trip.
I think we buttered that landing pretty good.
Oh, yeah. What don't they say? Greased it.
Greased.
Grease that landing, bro. That's me. Always greasing it. Thanks for everyone watching and listening. And tune in next week with a new guest. One way.
One way.
One way.